At that moment, Fidel Castro gave the order: shoot down every aircraft. One after another, advanced American reconnaissance planes were brought down. This only made the United States even more furious. However, a few aircraft still managed to reach Cuban airspace and carry out surveillance, and what they discovered shocked America to its core. They found that Russia had already deployed nuclear missiles in Cuba. Think about this. The United States had earlier placed missiles in Turkey aimed at Russia, and in response, Russia installed missiles in Cuba directly targeting the United States. In simple terms, two superpowers were now pointing nuclear weapons at each other. Tensions inside the United States reached extreme levels. President John F. Kennedy was under immense pressure. He declared, "We will not let Cuba go." The U.S. then made a strategic decision. Instead of directly attacking Russia, it would surround Cuba completely. A massive naval blockade was launched. Outer layers, inner layers, multiple defense rings. Cuba was encircled from all sides so that no ship could enter. But Nikita Khrushchev made it absolutely clear: no matter how strong the blockade is, Soviet ships and submarines will reach Cuba. And just like that, Soviet submarines began their journey. The entire world watched in silence, because if U.S. naval forces and Soviet submarines came face to face, war would be unavoidable. The peak of this tension came on October 27, 1962, a day many believed could be the end of the world. On that day, American warships and Soviet submarines came dangerously close to each other. U.S. ships suspected that enemy submarines might be lurking underwater, so they began dropping explosives known as depth charges to test the waters. Depth charges are underwater explosives designed to destroy submarines nearby. But fate had something terrifying in store. Right beneath those explosions was a Soviet submarine, B-59. The explosions disrupted its communication completely. Contact with Moscow was lost. No signals, no instructions, just silence. And earlier, they had been given strict orders. If communication is lost, assume war has begun and launch a nuclear strike. Inside the submarine, the most critical decision in human history was about to be made. A nuclear torpedo was prepared, but there was one condition. It required the approval of 3 senior officers. The first, Captain Valentin Savitsky. He said, "Launch the attack, destroy the United States." The second, Vasily Arkhipov. He refused. No, this could just be routine signaling, not an actual attack. The third, Ivan Maslenikov. He also opposed the launch. Just imagine, the fate of the entire world depended on one decision. Finally, it was decided they would surface the submarine and assess the situation. When the submarine surfaced, they saw American warships right in front of them. Both sides were on edge. One wrong move could have ended the world. In the end, President John F. Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev opened communication. They realized it was a misunderstanding, not a deliberate attack. A peaceful agreement was made, and the crisis was diffused. But just imagine if Vasily Arkhipov had said yes at that moment. A nuclear weapon would have been launched, the United States would have retaliated, and then the world as we know it today might not exist. In the end, the 2 superpower leaders, John F. Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev, reached an agreement. The deal was simple. We will withdraw our missiles from Cuba, and you will remove your nuclear missiles from Turkey and Italy. Eventually, both sides stepped back. This is how the world narrowly escaped the devastation of nuclear war. But the story doesn't end here. While the world was trembling under the fear of nuclear conflict, one country was quietly strengthening itself. That country was Israel. Israel was secretly preparing to develop nuclear weapons at the Dimona nuclear facility. At some point, this information reached the United States. America did not want Israel to become fully self-reliant. Instead, it preferred Israel remain dependent on U.S. support for its security. At that time, John F. Kennedy personally called Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion. He asked, "Are you developing nuclear weapons at Dimona?" Ben-Gurion denied it. He replied, "No, you are free to inspect if you wish." But before any inspection could take place, all evidence of nuclear research was removed from the facility. The United States realized it had been deceived.